Famed horror author Clive Barker wanted to create an all-new horror mythology from the ground up, and wanted to make a world and characters that an audience could relate to. With this, he eventually wrote the novella Cabal. After writing said novella, he wanted to make a film out of it, and envisioned a trilogy of films. He made a 3-picture deal with Morgan Creek that included a Cabal adaptation, its sequel, and an adaptation of another story, Son of Celluloid. One of the first things that was changed was the title, which went from Cabal, the main character's changed name, to Nightbreed, as they thought it would be more commercial. Barker was given a budget of $11 million, and he stated that he wished to create the Star Wars of horror films. After filming wrapped, it went through a hectic post-production phase. The first cut was screened for test audiences, and they were very confused by character motivations, so Barker went back and made some changes, and the test screening was more successful. However, through test screenings and studio meddling, Barker's original vision was hacked to pieces, resulting in his 2.5-hour magnum opus being hacked down to a 102-minute running time that made little sense. It was eventually released and received mixed to negative reviews, but eventually became a cult film. Meanwhile, a guy by the name of Mark Miller tracked down the cut footage in 2009, which was readily accessible. But the studio didn't want to release an extended cut as there was not a big enough audience. A 1989 work print was found that ran 145 minutes as well as a 159-minute cut a couple months later that premiered at a horror convention in Indianapolis. In 2012, Russell Charrington, a film lecturer at the University of Derby, created a composite cut of the 2 work prints found and a DVD of the theatrical version that was just released. It ran 155 minutes and was the most complete version of Barker's work. It renewed interest in the film, and many people lobbied for what they dubbed it the Cabal Cut. However, Scream Factory eventually released a director's cut in 2014 that wasn't the same as the Cabal Cut. Eventually in 2017, the Cabal Cut was released through the new Blu-ray and the VHS footage, and it was only released through a limited quantity through Clive Barker's online store. The version I will be talking about today is that of the director's cut by Scream Factory. This is a strange one, and not because of anything within the film, but it's just one of the most oddly structured and paced films I have ever watched. It feels like it has no structure, and it just sort of goes along until it reaches the end. For most films, there's setup, action, and climax, as anybody would know. Here, I feel like the entire movie is action. The entire movie just feels like the second act of a movie. We get no knowledge of anything prior to the opening minutes, and we're just supposed to run along and figure out what is going on with this guy, Aaron Boone. And I did really like that because it makes the lore of this world more mysterious and all the more intriguing. That's really what the basis of this movie is the lore, as it was intended to be the first in a trilogy. I feel as though Clive Barker wanted to introduce the idea of the lore in this film and then build upon it later in sequels, which unfortunately never happened. But with it constantly chugging along, I feel like there's no real plot. It's just sort of about Boone/Cabal and the Nightbreed. It's about them, and that's all that's really needed. You do have the stuff with the psychiatrist played by David Cronenberg, but that's a subplot I don't really count. In terms of the real meat, there seems to be little, but again, not a bad thing. It's more about its ideas, themes, and characters than the actual plot. With that, the world is easily the best part of the movie. It's clear that Barker put all of his time and energy creating the lore and building the world and its idea of mutants. While, say, X-Men is probably the more mainstream idea in terms of mutants, their powers, and their struggle to live amongst normal humans, I think Nightbreed is definitely more intriguing in terms of not only the look of the mutants, but what they symbolize. While not Stan Lee's initial intention, the X-Men have become a commentary for race relations, or at least that's what many people identify them as. With Nightbreed, many people's takeaway from the film is that it's more about coming out and coming to terms with homosexuality. I can definitely see that in there due to the Nightbreed being so comfortable with who they are, yet are still scared of the outside world as no one can truly understand them. Hence why they don't see Boone as one of them, because they're so petrified that their peace and comfort will be taken away from them, and he will destroy them in some way. This is certainly one of the strangest yet one of the most intriguing films I've ever seen, due to its structure, pacing, and more of a focus on lore, themes, and characters that makes the film truly unique. I highly recommend anyone see the film. Well, at least the director's cut, or if you can get your hands on the Cabal cut somehow.